Well, I'm really excited. I'm recycling a beautiful old house.
In less than 1 week, this huge 80-year-old craftsman-style bungalow in Seattle, Washington must make a daunting 2-day move on both land and sea.
I probably will be nervous the day it happens. Just please don't drop it. Don't drop my house.
The 2-story, 1,900-square-foot house must travel 8 blocks by land and 23 miles by barge to Jane Gerard's waterfront property off the coast of Seattle.
It has a great view of the water, and there are eagles that nest in the trees here, too. I've always lived near the water, and I really like it.
But if the house doesn't move out soon, it'll be torn down.
There's been townhouse development that's gone on. All of the houses around this area have actually been torn down.
And for Jane, this newly renovated 4-bedroom, 1-bathroom vintage home is worth saving.
It has a very warm, inviting interior. And one of the things that sold me on the house is the fact that the kitchen has been completely remodeled and the downstairs bathroom has been completely remodeled. It's a very beautiful kitchen. I do like to cook. Well, they added some nice touches, like it has the sink that's underneath the counter, the bridge faucet. I believe the previous owner was a climber. That was one of his hobbies. And this is actually a pull-out pantry.
It's estimated that the previous owners spent about $300,000 in renovating the house alone.
They redid the interior part of the fireplace. This mantel is cherry wood. It matches the cabinets in the kitchen and in the bathroom. There's very little work that has to be done to make it livable.
Even though Jane won't blow her budget renovating the house, moving it won't be cheap.
Well, the house and the move cost is combined. It'll be around $205,000.
And plenty could go wrong before this house even hits the road.
I'm hoping that it makes it. I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
To start, the huge 1,900-square-foot home must find a way out of this tight urban lot.
If we were to have to come out the front, then the whole kitchen nook would have to come off of the house. We wouldn't be able to do it unless we had the opportunity to move it out the back and across the alley.
But there's only one way to the alley, a dangerous ride across a neighbor's burnt-out foundation.
There was an unfortunate fire about a year ago which burned the house to the north. That fire has actually enabled us to move across the property. We'll still have some bumps.
It's going to be quite an engineering feat.
Once off its lot, the house must climb up over a 4-foot concrete wall and cross this parking lot to reach the street.
One of the hardest stages that we'll have to go through here is up to the wall. We're going to have to watch very carefully as the dolly wheels go over these different obstacles.
If the house survives the journey to the street, it must move 8 congested city blocks to reach a barge.
In an urban move like this, there are far more wires and trees and tight streets and all kinds of obstacles.
And it all has to happen in the dead of night.
We'll be moving down the street at 2 a.m. It has to be moved at that time of the day so that it doesn't disrupt traffic.
Once at the barge location, the house must be loaded by 7:30 a.m. sharp, so it can be delivered to Jane's waterfront lot in time to be unloaded.
Because it is a very shallow delivery area, we have to time it to an extremely high tide.
The higher the tide, the higher the barge will be to get it across the bank. At the low point, it's 18 feet. Well, I'm worried that they might drop it when they're going across the bank.
And through it all, bad weather could shut everything down.
I've heard that it's going to be rain and snow mixed. I'm a little concerned.
We could have icy streets when we're ready to roll. It would really cause a hazard to be able to move the house.
But 3 days before the move, the weather is holding.
Push the steel that way!
They're actually going to lift the house today.
The house can then be taken off of its foundation and the dolly wheels can be put underneath it.
It's pretty exciting.
Hydraulic jacks underneath the house will do the heavy lifting.
There often is minor damage that occurs in the form of plaster cracking and things like that.
It would not be good if something happened to the kitchen.
The lift is on.
We'll do a 16-inch lift until the house breaks free and is up high enough.
How good, Sam? Good?
They're not going to drop the house.
No, they are not going to drop the house.
Quite a lot of destruction here.
It takes all day, but the house is finally lifted 16 inches off the foundation.
That's just the level we need it to be at to be able to put our dolly wheels in place.
Well, I'm glad to see that the kitchen is still in good shape. I hope it stays that way.
But the riskiest part is yet to come.
Tomorrow they'll slide the house diagonally to the lot next door.
It's a really tight fit getting across the burned out house's foundation as well as the alley.
And bad weather could stop the move cold.
They're predicting rain and snow, and I hope they're wrong.
Worst case scenario, we would have to postpone the move.
Well, it will be devastating if it doesn't make it.
But first, this house must get off this tight urban lot.
Oh, it looks like it might fall.
And trying to reach the street in the dark could mean trouble.
It's pretty nerve-wracking watching the house tip back and forth. Boy, that's pretty scary. It's actually getting very exciting at this point. I'm excited about seeing it get moved.
In just 2 days, this historic 80-year-old craftsman-style bungalow in Seattle, Washington must undertake a daunting 2-day move on both land and sea.
It's all very foreign to me, so it's quite stressful.
Jane Gerard must haul her house 8 congested city blocks by land and another 23 miles by barge to her waterfront property off the coast of Seattle.
I'm looking forward to enjoying the waterfront view.
But if it doesn't move out soon, the house could be torn down to make way for new townhomes.
It's a 1926 bungalow. When you go inside, you can see that there's a lot of detail work, kind of a craftsmanship that you don't see anymore.
But if the house is going to hit the road in 2 days, it must move off its lot today.
I did not sleep very well last night. I woke up about 2 o'clock in the morning wondering if everything is going to work out okay or not.
The house is boxed in by neighboring homes, and the only way out is a risky ride across a site where a house burned down.
We have to move across a very rough, bumpy terrain.
The crew will need to build a bridge for the dolly wheels to drive over.
The dollies have to have a clear pathway to be able to get out of the rough and uneven terrain that we're on.
The whole process is a lot slower than I realized.
And they risk running out of daylight.
Light is short this time of year.
Good, we got it.
Finally, the bridge is built, but driving the house across it will leave no room for error.
That platform is just wide enough to fit the dolly wheels.
They'll come away. It's okay.
It's moving, finally, finally.
There are only 3 hours of daylight left. But the house cannot be rushed.
Whoa. Oh, I don't know if I can watch this. This looks a little scary. It looks like it might fall.
1 hour before sunset, the house is off the lot.
It looks fine from the outside, so we'll see about the inside. There's quite a bit of traveling left to do.
And things only get tougher from here.
Tomorrow, after business is closed, they'll move the house through the alley into the parking lot.
The next day, the weather takes a turn for the worse.
The first flutters of snow started falling, and I thought, oh no.
If the move is going to stay on track, the house must be moved closer to the street tonight. And that means climbing up and over this 4-foot wall in the dark.
The crew here are building a ramp to take the house up.
Finally, the ramp is built, and the uphill climb could begin.
I think I might be a little nervous watching that. What if the trailer tilts and the house starts to slide?
Okay, hold it there, Dusty, hold it.
Right away, there's a problem.
So it was a very slick ramp, and there was a very good chance that the truck would slip when it was going up.
And the house is going to need some extra pulling power to get up the ramp.
Hold it.
We had to hook our winch to the front of the truck so the truck wouldn't slip backwards.
It's pretty nerve-wracking watching the house tip back and forth as it moves up these ramps.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Boy, that's pretty scary. It looked like the house might slide off.
That's good there, Adam.
It's a great relief to see it up here on the parking lot.
The house is ready to travel 8 city blocks to the barge site tomorrow.
We're going to roll down the street right at 3 a.m. The temperature is just a little above freezing, and as long as it stays that way, we're going to be fine for the move.
But wind is still a factor.
There was some concern that the barge might not be able to go out on the sound because of the wind. I am concerned about that because the water can get quite choppy.
And come move night,
Oh my gosh. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm worried about my kitchen. It sort of looks like it's going to slide off.
it's a tighter squeeze than planned through the streets of Seattle.
I don't want the kitchen destroyed.
It's nearly 3 a.m. in Seattle, Washington.
Now they're getting ready to move the house down the street. It's quite a big production.
Jane Gerard's vintage 80-year-old craftsman-style bungalow must make a daunting 2-day move, covering 8 congested city blocks and 23 miles on a barge, to her waterfront property off the coast of Seattle.
It's cold, and I'd like to go ahead and get this thing on the barge.
If the barge doesn't sail by 7:30 a.m. sharp, the house won't reach Jane's land at the right time to unload.
They want to do it at a high tide.
And getting the house down to the barge won't be easy.
If the temperature drops and the roads and that start to ice up, that would be a concern.
Well, I'm a little worried about my kitchen. I don't want the kitchen destroyed. The kitchen's beautiful. My house is moving.
But right away, there's a slowdown.
Oh my gosh. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. It looks like it's gonna hit the wires.
The house is 24 feet high as it is right now. And we got wires down around 22, 23 feet.
So we're going to have some very tight wires to get underneath.
And it's going to take a drastic maneuver to get through.
We could very carefully tilt the house and work our way to the middle point, and then tilt the house the other direction to slide underneath the wires.
That's where the kitchen is. It sort of looks like it's going to slide off.
It's slow going.
I don't know how many power lines we have to pass under on the way down there.
There are still 4 blocks to go to reach the barge, and only 3 hours left to get there.
We're getting closer, but no, the end isn't in sight yet.
After we get past that last set of lights, we're
Home free?
home free.
Oh, good. I can hardly wait.
It looks like we're just being able to slide underneath these lights here.
It's 5:04 Sunday morning. I'm so glad we're finally here at the lake. So now the big thing is loading the house onto the barge.
But there's a problem with the weather.
Now we're having a little bit of wind.
We have a lot of surface area where the house becomes a big sail. We would have some safety issues about being on the lake if the winds are really severe.
And time is running out. They need to sail soon to catch high tide at Jane's property.
Are the ramps welded to the barge?
But they can't load the barge just yet.
They're putting a ramp from the barge over this bank.
This could easily take another hour, which puts us very close to the time that we're supposed to be launching on the barge.
Finally, the ramp is ready and the house can be loaded.
This big truck with a house on it is going to actually back on to the barge. The driver isn't able to see anything when he's driving, and he is directed by others, so I hope everybody's wide awake and paying attention.
Okay, back up, back up, back up.
This part is really scary.
Hold it.
It looks really shaky. It looks like the tire is barely on, and this one ramp looks like it's ready to fall.
Go up on the passenger dolly. Up, up, up.
Just minutes before launch time.
All right, we're onto the barge.
Are all
We did it.
tires on it?
Yeah, everything.
They are?
Yeah.
Yay!
And the wind has died down for now.
I'm just relieved. I'm going to go home and try to get some rest.
But the barge is delayed, putting the move behind schedule.
It would be a shame if this doesn't happen today.
And they could miss their window to unload the house at the other end.
We have an hour and a half to make this all happen.
I'm really anxious. I really want to get it over with.
It's 9 hours into a cold and rainy move day in Seattle, Washington.
What a lovely day to move a house.
Jane Gerard's vintage 80-year-old Craftsman-style bungalow has yet to ship out for a 23-mile journey by barge to her waterfront lot off the coast of Seattle.
See you guys tomorrow.
That's always a great feeling when you see the barge sailing away.
But it's now 12:30, putting the move more than 4 hours behind schedule.
12:30 was the first opening to get the barge under the Fremont Bridge.
I'm really anxious. I really want to get it over with.
The barge must reach Jane's land by 10 a.m. the next morning when the tide's high enough to unload the house.
There was concern that they weren't going to get here in time for the high tide, which is the only time the barge can be in against the bank.
And there's a potential holdup.
We're going to be watching the weather pretty closely. We've got a pretty big storm on its way tomorrow morning.
The next morning, at Jane's waterfront property,
They brought the house in on the barge.
but the weather has taken a turn for the worse.
It's very cold, it's very wet, it's very blustery.
And that's not all.
There's flooding all around this area, and the crew that has to come help move the house is stuck in traffic somewhere because of some flooded roads.
The timing couldn't be worse for the crew to be delayed.
There's a very short window of time when the tide is in.
We have an hour and a half to make this all happen.
And with a limited crew, all that can be done for the house is to build the ramp for the jump from barge to land.
If the crew can't get here in time for the high tide, then the barge will have to go back out into the sound and then try this again tomorrow at the next high tide. It would be a shame if this doesn't happen today.
Precious time is ticking away.
Okay, back this way, drop it down a bit.
Just as the ramp is finished,
Yay, they're finally here.
the rest of the crew shows up.
I was so happy to see them. It would have been such a downer to have to wait another day for this.
But now the pressure's on to unload the house before the tide goes out.
This barge needs to be gone by 1:30.
And to make things tougher, the house must drive up an 18-foot tall bank to get off the barge. The uphill climb begins. But not for long.
The house started sliding backwards. Very scary.
And I'm going to need steady tension.
The house is going to need some extra pulling power with a backhoe.
I need to keep this chain tight now. This is the most critical part. Start pulling. Pull, pull, pull. Hold it there.
But just as the house gets onto Jane's land,
One of the wheels got stuck.
and to get out of the mud, they're going to have to pull even harder with the backhoe.
My nerves are so on edge as it is.
Straighten out, Murray, straighten out.
Just minutes before the tide goes out, the house makes it off the barge.
Yeah, I made it. Well, thank you for all your fine work.
Well, thank you for the opportunity for working with you.
It's been great. I'm feeling relieved. It's finally here. It's all in one piece. It's going to be a great house. I don't think I've ever been so happy in my life.